At 9:47 p.m. Pacific Time, in front of 40 million people, Governor Gavin Newsom's smile suddenly stopped working. It had been working for 23 years, through 2 inaugurations, through a recall, through a scandal that should have ended his career and didn't. 23 years of perfect teeth and perfect hair, and a face that never once on camera stopped performing. And then, a man from Queens asked him one question, and for 11 seconds, the governor of California stood at a podium in his own capital city and could not answer it. This is the story of those 11 seconds and everything that led to them. The debate was Newsom's idea. He had challenged Trump publicly on camera in April. He had done it with the confidence of a man who had already beaten Ron DeSantis in a nationally televised debate and believed he could do it again with a bigger target. Trump accepted the same day. "I love California," he posted. "Beautiful state. Terrible governor. Let's do it." Sacramento Convention Center, June. 2,000 people in the seats. 40 million on the live stream. The biggest political debate since the presidential elections. In the front row on the left side of the aisle sat Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer. Behind them, 2 full rows of California Democrats. Congressmen, state senators, party officials. The weight of the Democratic establishment, arranged like a fortress. In the front row on the right side sat Vice President J.D. Vance, a leather notebook open on his lap. Beside him, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, arms crossed, jaw tight. Beside DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, sitting upright, watching the stage the way a man watches a boxing ring before the bell. Newsom walked out first. Navy suit, red tie, a power play on Republican turf. Hair perfect, smile perfect. He glanced at Pelosi. She gave him one nod. Short, final. Trump walked out second. Navy suit, red tie, waving. Half the room cheered, half booed. He did not seem to notice the difference. Newsom won the coin toss for opening remarks. He stood up, buttoned his jacket, and walked to the podium with the stride of a man who had rehearsed this walk in front of a mirror. He did not shout. He did not pound the podium. He spoke the way a senior partner at a law firm speaks during a closing argument. Measured, confident, smooth. "Thank you for being here, Mr. President. It takes real courage to come to California, the state that rejected you by 5 million votes, twice." A ripple of laughter from the left side. Jeffries clapped softly. Schumer smiled. "I know this is uncomfortable for you. You prefer rallies where everyone already agrees with you. Tonight, you are going to have to earn it." He paused. Let the line land. "Let me start by addressing the elephant in the room. I am standing next to a man who has been convicted of 34 charges. A man who attempted to overturn a Democratic election. A man whose own vice president testified against him before a grand jury. And I want the people of California to take a good look at him tonight, because this is what the decline of a political movement looks like." Pelosi's thin lips curved into a satisfied line. DeSantis shifted in his seat. Newsom pivoted to policy, smooth as a gear change. "Under your administration, the national debt increased by $8 trillion. $8 trillion. You promised to eliminate it. You doubled it. Your tax cut delivered 83% of its benefits to the top 1%. Your tariffs cost the average American family $2,000 a year in higher prices. You called yourself the greatest jobs president in history, and then you presided over the largest job loss since Herbert Hoover." He was in his element now. The data flowed. The cadence was perfect. "And let me tell you about California, Mr. President, because I know Fox News has painted you a very different picture. California is the 5th largest economy in the world, not the country, the world. We lead the nation in innovation, in clean energy, in technology, in venture capital. Apple, Google, Tesla, Netflix, Meta. They are all right here, not in Mar-a-Lago. He straightened his tie, looked directly into the camera. Mr. President, you are a threat to democracy. You are a threat to the rule of law, and you are a threat to every value that California represents. I did not have to invite you here tonight, but I wanted America to see what happens when a governor stands up to a bully. Applause from the left side. Pelosi gave another nod. Schumer leaned back, satisfied. Jeffries crossed his arms with the confidence of a man who believes the fight is already won. Newsom sat back down, crossed his legs, smiled. On the other side of the stage, Donald Trump had been sitting very still during the charge line. He had nodded along, almost bored. During the debt line, he had checked his cufflinks during the fifth largest economy line. He had picked up the glass of water in front of him and taken a long, slow drink. And during the threat to democracy line, the line Newsom's coaches had spent 3 weeks crafting, Trump had yawned. Not a fake yawn, not a hand-over-the-mouth yawn. A full, visible on-camera yawn. The kind of yawn a man does when he has heard something so many times it has lost all meaning. In the front row, Vance hid a smirk behind his hand. DeSantis covered his mouth. Vivek looked at the ceiling to keep from laughing. The moderator turned to Trump. Mr. President, your response. Trump stood up. He walked to his podium. He adjusted the microphone. He looked at Newsom for a long moment. 5 seconds passed. Are you done, pretty boy? Half the room laughed, half gasped. On the left side, Jeffries's smile froze. On the right side, DeSantis uncrossed his arms for the first time, and on Gavin Newsom's face, the smile flickered. Just once, just for a fraction of a second, like a light bulb about to die. In the front row, Pelosi's hand tightened on her purse strap. Almost invisible, but there. Trump did not address the charges. He did not address the debt. He did not address the tax cuts, the tariffs, or the job losses. He let every single insult hang in the air like coats on hooks. Instead, he smiled. Folks, Governor Newsom just told you California is the 5th largest economy in the world. And he is right. He is absolutely right. It is the 5th largest economy in the world. Beautiful. Congratulations, Governor, Gold Star. He paused. But Governor, if California is so great, if it's such a paradise, then why are your people leaving? Newsom leaned forward. Mr. President, population fluctuations are a normal demographic phenomenon. If you actually look at the data, rather than the Fox News chyrons, it's normal. Trump held up one finger. Normal. Governor, 1.7 million people have left California since you became governor. 1.7 million. That is the entire population of the city of Phoenix, Arizona. An entire American city packed up and moved out of your state, and you just called it normal. He pulled out his phone. I have it right here, Governor. Not Fox News. The United States Census Bureau. Los Angeles County alone has lost 322,000 residents, your biggest county. The county with Hollywood, the county with the beaches, the county with the weather. 322,000 people looked at all of that and said, no thank you. I'd rather live in Texas. Newsom tried again. He was a good debater. He had a counter ready. Those numbers don't account for international immigration, Mr. President. California continues to attract talent from around the world. Our population is stabilizing, and our economy. Oh, you're replacing them. Trump set his phone down. You're replacing the American families who built California for 3 generations with, Governor, listen to yourself. You just told the people in this room that your plan is to replace them. Do the people in this audience want to hear that their governor's solution to the exodus is to replace them with someone else? A murmur went through the crowd. On the left side of the aisle, Schumer leaned toward an aide and whispered something. The aide whispered back. Schumer's face darkened. And it's not just people leaving, Governor, it's businesses. Tesla left California, Oracle left, Hewlett-Packard left, Charles Schwab left, Palantir left. They went to Texas, they went to Florida, they went to Tennessee. Trump glanced at DeSantis in the front row. Ron, how many California companies did you get? DeSantis held up one hand, fingers spread. 5. Maybe more. The right side of the room laughed. Newsom fired back. He was not done fighting. Apple is still here. Google is still here. Meta is still here. The entire innovation economy is headquartered in California, and no amount of cherry-picking. Governor? Trump held up his phone. Those companies haven't left yet, but their employees have. Their employees are working remotely from Austin and Miami and Nashville and Boise. The companies kept the headquarters in California for the tax write-off and moved their people to states where their people can actually afford to live. You didn't keep the companies, Governor. You kept the logos. In the front row, Vivek Ramaswamy shook his head and mouthed the word, "Wow." Newsom smiled. That rehearsed, polished, camera-ready smile. The same smile that had gotten him elected 3 times and onto the cover of magazines. Trump stopped talking. He looked at Newsom, then he looked directly into the camera. Look at that smile, folks. Look at that smile. I just told him 1.7 million people left his state. I just told him the biggest companies in America are running away from him, and he is smiling. He let the silence sit for 3 seconds. You know why he smiles? Because he does not have an answer. That smile is the answer. Every time Governor Newsom does not have an answer, he shows you his teeth. Remember that. Watch for it tonight. Every time you see the smile, you are watching a man who has nothing to say. In the front row, Pelosi's expression did not change. But Jeffries glanced at her. She did not glance back. That was the first sign. Now, Governor, I want to talk about something that the people of California have not forgotten about, no matter how many times you smile through it. Trump set his phone down. He rested both hands on the podium. November 6, 2020. Newsom's jaw tightened half a centimeter. On camera, it looked like a shadow. November 6, 2020. The state of California is in the worst health crisis surge in its history. Governor Newsom has just ordered, not asked, not suggested, ordered the people of California to stay home. He has banned indoor dining. He has banned gatherings of more than 3 households. He has told millions of Californians that they cannot have Thanksgiving dinner with their own families. Restaurants are closed. Small businesses are dying. Schools are shut. Children are sitting in front of Zoom screens 8 hours a day instead of in classrooms with their friends and their teachers. Small business owners are watching the work of 20, 30, 40 years go bankrupt. People are alone. People are depressed. People are losing everything they have. He paused. The pause was not for effect. It was for weight. And on that night, on that exact night, Governor Gavin Newsom sat down at the French Laundry restaurant in Napa Valley, $350 a plate, 12 people at the table, multiple households, indoors, no masks, no social distancing, shoulder to shoulder with lobbyists from the California Medical Association, drinking wine, eating lobster. He turned to Newsom. Governor, your response. Newsom was ready. He had practiced this answer hundreds of times. Mr. President, I have addressed this publicly many times. I called it a mistake. I said it was wrong. I took full responsibility. I owned it. You owned it. Beautiful word, Governor. You owned it. But let me ask you something you have never answered. You told the press that night that it was outdoor dining. You said you were sitting outside. And then Fox 11 Los Angeles obtained photographs that showed you inside, in a private room, with sliding glass doors that had been closed because your party was making too much noise. You lied about where you were sitting, Governor. You lied about a dinner. Newsom tried to interrupt. The restaurant had doors that were initially open and then sliding doors. Sliding doors, folks. They were open, then they were closed, then they were sliding. Governor, the photos show you indoors, shoulder to shoulder, not a mask in sight. 12 people laughing and eating $350 steak. Is that what outdoor dining looks like in California? He got serious. The showman dropped. The man stood there instead. But that is not the part that makes me angry, Governor. Politicians make mistakes. I've made mistakes. The part that makes me angry is what was happening to everybody else on that same night. On the same night you were eating lobster at a birthday party for a lobbyist. A lobbyist, folks. Not even a friend. A lobbyist. On that same night, a father in Sacramento could not visit his dying mother in the hospital because of your rules. A family in Los Angeles could not hold a funeral for their grandmother with more than 10 people because of your order. A man in Fresno, who had owned a restaurant for 23 years, was lying awake at 3:00 the morning, wondering how he was going to pay rent because you had ordered his restaurant closed. And you were eating lobster with 12 of your friends at a $350 restaurant without a mask. Newsom tried again. Mr. President, I have said repeatedly that I take full responsibility. You apologized for the dinner, Governor. Did you apologize for the lockdown? Did you apologize to the 6 million children who spent a year staring at computer screens? Did you apologize to the 10,000 restaurants that closed permanently in California during your lockdown? Did you apologize to them? Silence. And by the way, Governor, while your lockdown was shutting every public school in California, where were your children going to school? Newsom did not answer immediately. The half-second delay was visible. My children attended. They were in a private school, Governor. In Sacramento, in person, while every other child in California was locked in front of a screen. You told CNN, Governor, not Fox, that you were a Zoom parent. That was false. Your children had teachers. Your children had classrooms. Your children had friends. Everybody else's children had a laptop. He let it hang. Rules for thee, but not for me, right, pretty boy? He turned to the audience. Folks, I want to make sure everybody understands what the French Laundry really means. It is not just a dinner. It is not just hypocrisy. It is the moment that tells you everything about the man standing on this stage tonight. Because here is what happened after the photos came out. The people of California were so angry, so personally betrayed, that they launched a recall election against their own governor. Almost 2 million Californians signed a petition to remove him. 2 million signatures in a state run by Democrats. Do you know how angry people have to be to recall their own governor? Do you know how many people have to feel personally lied to? And do you know when most of those signatures were collected, Governor? After the French Laundry photos came out. 442,000 signatures came in between November and December of 2020 alone. The French Laundry photo was the match, the lockdown was the gasoline, and 2 million people in your own state said, enough. Newsom tried one more time to redirect. The recall failed. Mr. President, the people of California, the recall failed because you spent $50 million fighting it, Governor. You outspent the opposition 5-1. You turned it into a referendum on Donald Trump instead of a referendum on Gavin Newsom. You changed the subject. You are very, very good at changing the subject. That is your greatest talent. Not governing, changing the subject. He looked at Newsom. But tonight, Governor, we are not changing the subject. In the front row, Schumer leaned over to his aide and whispered something. The aide stood up, buttoned his jacket, and walked out of the room through a side door. Nobody in the television audience noticed, but the people in the front rows noticed. Schumer's aide was gone. Jeffries had stopped nodding. His hands were folded in his lap. He was studying the floor. And Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi, had not moved. Her face had not changed expression, but she had shifted her purse from her lap to the empty seat beside her. The gesture was almost invisible. Almost. It is the gesture of a woman who is preparing to stand up. Newsom smiled again. That same smile, but now the audience had been told to watch for it. Trump saw it. There is that smile again, Governor. You smiled when I talked about people leaving your state. You smiled when I talked about the French Laundry. Do you smile at everything? Is that how you get through the day? Somebody loses their business? You smile. Somebody loses their mother? You smile. 1 million people leave? You smile. He paused. His voice dropped. What does make you stop smiling, Governor? Because I have not found it yet, but I will. Before tonight is over, I will. That last line landed differently from everything else. It was not a joke. It was not a zinger. It was a promise. And everyone in the room, Democrats and Republicans, heard it as a promise. Now, Governor, you love talking about California's economy, 5th largest in the world. Beautiful. Let's talk about what happened to all that money under your watch. The phone came back out. California's Employment Development Department, the EDD. During the crisis, the EDD was supposed to send unemployment checks to the people who lost their jobs because of your lockdown. People who needed help. People who had been ordered to stop working by their own governor. Instead, the EDD sent $33 billion to criminals. He let the number sit in the silence for 5 full seconds. $33 billion. To fraud rings, to organized crime syndicates, and to a foreign state-sponsored hacking group called, and I am not making this name up, Governor. This is the actual name. Wicked Panda. Wicked Panda. A cybercrime operation run by a foreign government stole billions of dollars from California's unemployment system while your citizens were standing in line at food banks. Newsom leaned into the microphone. He was fighting. He was still fighting. This was where his debate training kicked in hardest. Redirect. Reframe. Transfer blame. Mr. President, every state in America dealt with unemployment fraud during the pandemic. This was a nationwide problem caused by the unprecedented speed at which federal funds were distributed under your administration. Every state had fraud, Governor, that is true. Texas lost $2 billion. Florida lost $1.5. California lost $33. Your state lost more than the next 10 states combined. He held up his phone. I want you to hear those numbers again, Governor, because I don't think you understand what they mean. Texas, $2 billion. Florida, $1.5 billion. California, $33 billion. That is not a rounding error. That is not a nationwide trend. That is your state being 10 times worse than everybody else. You don't get to blame the federal government for that. The federal government didn't run your EDD. You did. In the front row, DeSantis leaned forward slightly. He had governed Florida through the same pandemic. His state had lost $1.5 billion, not 33. The comparison was doing its work. Newsom tried again. His voice was slightly faster now, a degree less smooth. The talking points were starting to overlap. We took swift action when the fraud was identified. We brought in new leadership at EDD and implemented a comprehensive fraud detection framework that has been recognized. Swift action, Governor? Let me tell you what swift action looks like. At the peak of the fraud, at the absolute peak, when billions of dollars were flowing out of your state to criminals in Russia and China and Nigeria, your EDD had 2 employees assigned to check for suspicious claims. 2 human beings monitoring billions of dollars in payments. 2 people, Governor. He held up 2 fingers. And here is the part that should make every person in this room physically ill. At one point during the pandemic, California had more people applying for unemployment benefits than there were adults in the state of California. More applications than adults. Think about that. Every single adult in California could have applied, and there still would have been applications left over. Phantom applications, ghost applications, applications from people who did not exist, submitted by criminals on the other side of the world. And your fraud department had 2 people checking. Newsom opened his mouth for a 3rd counter. His voice had risen half an octave. Not shouting, not emotional, just faster. The rhythm was different now. The polish was starting to show its seams. That is a mischaracterization of our fraud detection infrastructure. We had automated systems in place that. Automated systems, Governor. Your automated systems approved payments to inmates in state prisons. Your automated systems sent checks to addresses that did not exist. Your automated systems paid out claims using Social Security numbers belonging to dead people. Those are not my talking points. Those are from your state auditor's report published last December. Still on the high-risk list. 6 years after the fraud. And still on the high-risk list. Newsom tried one more time. He was reaching now. The scale of the pandemic required rapid deployment of resources. And some fraud was inevitable. Some fraud was inevitable. Some fraud. $33 billion is not some fraud, Governor. $33 billion is a heist. It is the largest theft of public money in the history of the United States, and it happened on your watch, in your state, through your department, under your appointees. And by way, Governor, your former Chief of Staff, Dana Williamson, the woman who worked in your office, who sat in the chair outside your door, she is currently under federal investigation for falsifying documents and using relief funds for her personal business. Your own Chief of Staff, Governor. The person closest to you in state government, under federal investigation right now as we sit here tonight. Newsom's mouth was open. Nothing came out. His hand was resting on the podium. The hand was still, but the tendons were visible. And since we are talking about money, Governor, let us talk about homelessness. Your signature issue. You promised to end homelessness when you were mayor of San Francisco. That was 20 years ago. Since you became governor, California has spent $37 billion on homelessness programs. $37 billion. And homelessness in your state has gone up 31%. Nationally, it went down 10%. In California, under Gavin Newsom, it went up. $37 billion. Governor, your own state auditor said you failed to track where the money went. $37 billion. And you cannot tell the people of California where it is. And one more thing about money, Governor, before I'm done. Panera Gate. You signed a minimum wage law with a special exemption that happened to benefit Panera Bread. And the largest Panera Bread franchise owner in California is a man named Greg Flynn, your personal friend, your major donor. He paused. He counted on his fingers slowly for the audio audience. 33 billion stolen. 37 billion wasted. And your donor gets a special deal on minimum wage. That is $70 billion, Governor. $70 billion gone under your watch in your state. And you are standing here telling me California is the 5th largest economy in the world. He shook his head. Governor, with $70 billion, California should be the first. In the second row on the left side, two California Democratic congressmen stood up quietly, one after the other. They did not look at each other. They did not look at Newsom. They walked toward different exits. They left through different doors. The seats they left behind were empty. The cameras did not catch them leaving, but the people sitting near them noticed. Schumer was perched on the edge of his seat now. His back was no longer against the chair. He was positioned to stand. Jeffries was looking at Pelosi. Pelosi was still sitting, but her purse was in her hand now. On the right side, nothing had changed. Every Republican seat was full. Vance had written something in his leather notebook and shown it to DeSantis. DeSantis read it. His eyebrows went up. He nodded once. Vivek was not even trying to hide his reaction anymore. He was shaking his head with his mouth open. Trump set his phone down. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Lower, slower. The showman was gone. The counterpuncher was gone. The entertainer, the performer, the man who had been laughing and pointing and playing to the crowd, that man had stepped off the stage and left behind someone quieter. Governor, I have one more thing to say tonight. The room went still, the kind of still that has nothing to do with sound. I take no pleasure in this one. I really don't. What I am about to say is personal. I do not like getting personal in debates. I would rather talk about jobs and the economy and the border and all the things that actually matter to the people in this room. But you started tonight by calling me a threat to democracy. You called me a convicted person. You attacked my character. So I think it is only fair that the people of California hear about yours. Governor, in 2005, you were the mayor of San Francisco. You were 40 years old. You had a man working for you. His name was Alex Turk. Gavin Newsom's face changed. It was not a dramatic change. It was not a gasp, or a flinch, or a visible recoil. It was something much smaller, and much worse. The muscles around his eyes went flat. The performance, the constant low-level performance that had been running since he walked onto the stage, stopped. For the first time in his entire political career, on live television, Gavin Newsom's face was simply a face. Not a campaign poster, not a magazine cover, just a face. And it was the face of a man who had just heard the name of someone he had been trying to forget for 19 years. Alex Turk was your deputy chief of staff. He ran your election campaigns. He designed your most successful program, Project Homeless Connect. He had been loyal to you for 10 years. 10 years, Governor. He went to ball games with you. He had dinner with you and your wife. He was your closest advisor. He was your best friend. In the front row, Pelosi stood up. She picked up her purse. She did not say a word. She did not look at Newsom. She did not look at Jeffries, or Schumer, or anyone else. She simply stood up, turned, walked to the aisle, and walked toward the exit. Her heels made a soft clicking sound on the convention center floor. The sound was picked up by a boom microphone near the front row. 40 million people heard Nancy Pelosi leave. She walked through the exit door, and the door closed behind her. The chair she had been sitting in, the chair in the center of the front row, the chair that had been occupied by the most powerful woman in the history of the Democratic Party, was empty. Trump did not look at the empty chair. He did not have to. Every camera in the room had already cut to it. He continued. Alex Turk had a wife. Her name was Ruby. Ruby Rippy Turk. She worked in your office, Governor. She was your appointments secretary. She was a young woman working for her husband's best friend. Her husband trusted you. She trusted you. Everyone in that office trusted you. And you, Governor Gavin Newsom, had an inappropriate relationship with her, with your best friend's wife, with a subordinate in your own office, while your best friend was running your campaign and building your career. He let those words sit. He did not follow them with a zinger. He did not laugh. He just let them exist in the air. Not with a stranger, Governor. Not with someone you met at a conference. With the wife of the man who was more loyal to you than any other person in your professional life. The man who created your homeless program. The man who knocked on doors for you. The man who defended you to reporters when nobody else would. The man who spent his evenings making phone calls so that Gavin Newsom could be mayor. And while Alex Turk was doing all of that for you, while he was working late to build your career, you were secretly involved with his wife in your own office. Trump paused. Something in his voice shifted. The showman was gone. The counterpuncher was gone. The man who was speaking now was not performing. He was just talking. I am not a saint, Governor. Everybody knows that. The tabloids have covered every mistake I have ever made. I have been through 2 divorces. I have said things I should not have said. I am not standing here tonight pretending to be a perfect husband or a perfect man. Nobody who knows me would believe that, and I would not insult this audience by pretending. But I have never in my entire life, done what you did. I have never been involved with my best friend's wife. I have never betrayed a man who trusted me that completely. Because there are some things that a man does not do, Governor. There are some lines that a man does not cross. No matter how powerful he is, no matter how much he has had to drink, no matter how good his hair looks, and you crossed it. Dead silence. Schumer stood up. He buttoned his jacket. He did not look at anyone. He walked to the aisle and followed the same path Pelosi had taken 30 seconds earlier. The door closed behind him. 2 more chairs. Empty. Your best friend found out, not because you told him, because his wife told him. She was in a treatment program for personal health struggles, and, as part of her recovery, she was required to be honest with her husband about what she had done. So she did the thing you could not do, Governor. She told the truth. And Alex Turk, the most loyal man in your political life, walked into your office on January 31st, 2007, looked you in the face, and resigned. After 10 years, the next morning you held a press conference. It lasted 2 minutes. You said, and I am quoting you exactly, "Governor, everything you have heard and read is true, and I am deeply sorry." 2 more California Democrats stood up from the second row and left quietly through different doors. And then you blamed a personal struggle, Governor. You told the press you had a personal struggle. You told the people of California that you would seek help. The media reported that you entered a treatment program, and the people of California, because they are decent, forgiving people, they gave you a second chance. They believed you. And then 11 years later, in 2018, you told the Sacramento Bee, and I have this right here on my phone, Governor. You can check it yourself. You said, quote, "There is no treatment program." I just stopped. There was no treatment. No, nothing related to any of that stuff. End quote. He looked directly at Newsom. You promised the people of this state that you would get help for a personal problem. You used that promise as an excuse for being with your best friend's wife. You let the entire state of California believe you were in treatment. And then you admitted, more than a decade later, when you thought nobody was paying attention, that there was no treatment. There was no recovery program. There was nothing. You lied about treatment the same way you lied about outdoor dining, Governor. Jeffries in the front row lowered his head. He was now looking at his own shoes. Governor, in the 2018 gubernatorial debate, your opponent said something about you that I believe is the truest thing anyone has ever said about Gavin Newsom. He paused. He said, "If you can't trust Gavin with his best friend's wife, how can you trust him with your state?" He looked at Newsom. I think that is the question the American people need answered tonight, Governor. Not your GDP numbers. Not your talking points about the fifth largest economy. Not your smile. That question. Can they trust you? Can anyone trust you? Your best friend couldn't. The people who believed your treatment story couldn't. The families who followed your lockdown rules while you ate lobster couldn't. Can anyone, Governor, can anyone trust you? Newsom gripped the podium. His knuckles were white. He tried to speak. The teleprompter cadence started, the smooth, practiced rhythm that had carried him through 1,000 press conferences and 100 debates. I have addressed this in the past. I have taken full responsibility for, but the smile was gone. For the first time on camera, in front of the nation, Gavin Newsom's face was not smiling. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were flat. The polish, the product, the performance, the 23 years of perfected public persona had cracked open, and behind it, there was nothing. Not anger, not grief, not defiance, nothing. A blank space where a person should be. He tried to smile. The muscles in his face tried. The corners of his mouth moved upward. The teeth began to show. But the smile did not arrive. It was a face performing every mechanical step of a smile and producing nothing that looked like one. Trump watched. The audience watched. 40 million people at home watched. And Trump said very quietly, "There it is, folks." The smile just stopped working. "Governor, one last question." Newsom was still gripping the podium. Behind him, more than half of the Democratic VIP seats were empty. Pelosi's chair, Schumer's chair, 4 California Democrats' chairs. Jeffries was still there, but he had not looked up from his shoes in 2 minutes. On the Republican side, every seat was full. Not a single person had moved. Vance's notebook was closed. He was simply watching. DeSantis was leaning forward, elbows on knees. Vivek was still. "Governor, you have been in public office for 23 years. Mayor of San Francisco, Lieutenant Governor, Governor of California, 23 years of speeches and press conferences and town halls and debates and magazine covers and television interviews. In all that time, in all those years, I want you to name one person, not a statistic, not a program, not a talking point, not the 5th largest economy in the world. One person, one human being whose life is better because of Gavin Newsom, someone you fought for, someone you saved, someone whose name you remember, someone who would stand up in this room right now, on this stage, in front of all these cameras, and say, 'Gavin Newsom changed my life.' Name one, Governor. Silence. Just one. One name. 23 years in office. And one name. That is all I am asking. Silence." Newsom's mouth opened. His right hand came up from the podium, the gesture of a man about to make a point. The index finger extended slightly, but no point came. The finger curled back. The hand hovered in the air for a moment, then fell to his side. He tried to speak. His lips moved. No sound came. In the silence, the convention center seemed to grow larger. The 2,000 people in the seats became very still. The live stream counter in the production booth ticked past 43 million viewers. 43 million people were watching a man try to remember one human being he had helped, and failing. 3 seconds of silence. 5 seconds. 7. 9. 11. On the 11th second, Newsom shifted his weight. His palm slipped against the polished surface of the podium. The microphone mounted on the podium lip caught the thud, a low, ugly sound that fed back through the speaker system and filled the convention center for half a second before the audio engineer in the booth killed it. But everyone heard it, everyone in the room, everyone watching at home. A dull, electronic groan, like the sound of a machine dying. That sound, that feedback buzz, was the last sound of Gavin Newsom's presidential ambitions. He stepped back from the podium. One step, then another. His hands dropped to his sides. He did not smile. He did not make a closing statement. He did not shake Donald Trump's hand. He did not look at the empty Democratic chairs. He did not look at the cameras. "I think I have said everything I need to say tonight," he said. His voice was flat, quiet, the voice of a man speaking from the bottom of a well. He turned. He walked off the stage through the side door. The door closed behind him with a soft click that the boom microphone caught, and 40 million people heard. In the front row, Hakeem Jeffries finally stood up. He buttoned his jacket. He walked to the exit without looking back at the row of empty chairs he was leaving behind. The only Democrat left in the VIP section was a young California assemblywoman in the fourth row. She was sitting alone in a sea of empty seats. She did not know whether to stay or go. She looked at the empty chair next to her. She looked at the stage. She stayed. Staying was worse. On the other side of the aisle, the Republican section had not lost a single person. Every seat full. Vance put his pen in his jacket pocket. DeSantis turned to Vivek and said something too quiet for the cameras. Vivek began to clap slowly. One person joined him, then 5, then 20, then the entire right side of the room. The applause was not raucous. It was not a rally. It was steady, serious, final applause from people who had just watched something they would remember for the rest of their lives. Trump picked up his microphone one last time. "Folks, I came here tonight to talk about California, and I think California heard everything it needed to hear." He looked at the empty chairs on the left side. "Governor Newsom is a good-looking man. He has great hair. He has a beautiful smile. But a smile is not a plan. A smile is not leadership. And a smile is not character. The people of California deserve all three. God bless California. God bless the United States of America. Good night." He set down the microphone. He walked off the stage to steady, rolling applause that followed him all the way to the door. Within 90 minutes, the hashtag number #TheSmileStopped was trending #1 worldwide. The 11 seconds of silence, Trump asking Newsom to name one person, and the dead air that followed, was shared 120 million times in 48 hours. Someone isolated the 11 seconds and posted it with the caption, "This is the sound of a presidential campaign ending." That post alone got 50 million views. The photograph of Pelosi's empty chair went viral before the debate was even over. A wire photographer captured the moment she stood, purse in hand, face forward, not looking back. And the image was on the front page of every major newspaper in America the next morning. The Washington Post ran it above the fold with a single-word headline, "Exit." Fox News ran one banner for 18 consecutive hours. The smile stopped. Trump dismantles Newsom in Sacramento. CNN's post-debate panel spent 2 hours searching for a frame. Jake Tapper finally said on air, "I do not think there is a way to spin 11 seconds of silence." MSNBC's panel included a Democratic strategist who said, "Live on camera. We need a different candidate for 2028. I am sorry, but we do." The clip got 30 million views by morning. Newsom's presidential polling collapsed within 72 hours. A CNN poll conducted the weekend after the debate showed him falling from frontrunner at 31% to fourth place at 9%, behind Gretchen Whitmer, behind Josh Shapiro, behind Wes Moore. Pelosi's office released a one-sentence statement the next morning. Speaker Emerita Pelosi attended a portion of last night's debate and departed during a scheduled break. Nobody in Washington believed it. Nobody outside Washington even pretended to believe it. Schumer's office released no statement at all. Jeffries, asked by reporters the next morning whether he still considered Newsom a viable 2028 candidate, answered with one sentence, "I think the governor has a lot to offer the party." The word viable was notably absent. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's Political Action Committee posted a hiring notice for a national campaign director within 72 hours. She did not mention Newsom in any public statement. She did not need to. Ron DeSantis, who had debated Newsom on Fox News in November of 2023 and been widely judged to have lost, was asked about the debate the next morning by a reporter in Tallahassee. He paused before answering. "I have been in a debate with Governor Newsom," DeSantis said. "It is not a pleasant experience. But I will say this. The president found something tonight that I did not find. He found the off switch." The quote was shared 12 million times. The Republican National Committee ran a 3-0 second ad in 16 states the following week. The ad contained no Republican voice, no narration, no music, just a shot of Newsom's face at the podium. The question, "Name one person," and 11 seconds of silence. It was the most effective political advertisement of the entire cycle. Focus groups in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin rated it the single most persuasive ad they had seen in any election since 2008. And Alex Turk, who had not spoken publicly about the situation since 2007, was contacted by 31 media outlets in the 24 hours after the debate. He declined every single one. His silence said everything that needed to be said. A reporter from the San Francisco Chronicle drove to the address listed under his name and found a house with the blinds drawn and no car in the driveway. A neighbor told the reporter that Turk had watched the debate, that he had watched the whole thing, that the neighbor had seen a light on in the living room at 2:00 the morning. And that is all anyone knows about what Alex Turk thought that night. At 2:00 the morning, in a hotel suite at the Kimpton Sawyer in downtown Sacramento, Gavin Newsom was sitting in the bathroom with the door locked. The suite cost $800 a night. His tie was on the floor. His jacket was draped over the towel rack. His shirt was untucked. His shoes were still on. His hair, the famous hair, the gel, the architecture that had not moved in 23 years of public life, was still perfect. Even now, even at 2:00 the morning, even sitting on the edge of a hotel bathtub with the lights on too bright, and the marble too cold, and the mirror too close, his phone was on the counter, face down. It had been buzzing for 5 hours. He had not looked at it. He did not need to look at it to know what the messages said. Jennifer had called 4 times. His chief of staff had called 12 times. His press secretary had sent 17 texts. CNN wanted a statement. MSNBC wanted an interview. The New York Times wanted a comment for a story they were running in the morning edition. Under a headline he could already guess. His mother had called once. He had not called her back either. He looked at himself in the mirror. He tried to smile. The muscles moved. The corners of his mouth went up. The teeth showed. Every mechanical component of the smile was present and functioning perfectly. The face in the mirror was doing everything a smile required. But the smile did not work. It had not worked since 9:47 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when a man from Queens, New York, had looked at him on national television and said 6 words that he would hear in his own head every morning for the rest of his life. The smile just stopped working. He stared at his reflection for a long time. Then he reached up with both hands, and for the first time in a very long time, ran his fingers through his own hair. The gel resisted. Then it gave way. The architecture, the careful, maintained, camera-ready architecture that had held firm through 1,000 press conferences and 2 inaugurations and 1 recall and 1 debate and 23 years of being the most photogenic man in California politics, collapsed. Dark strands fell across his forehead, pieces stuck up at angles. For one moment, in the too bright light of the hotel bathroom, Gavin Newsom looked like a human being instead of a magazine cover. He picked up his phone. He did not call his wife. He did not call his staff. He opened his contacts and scrolled slowly past names he recognized and names he did not recognize and names he had forgotten and names he wished he could forget, until he reached one name he had not spoken to or spoken about in 19 years. Alex Turk. He stared at the name. The name stared back. He thought about pressing call. He thought about what he would say. He thought about whether Alex would answer. He thought about whether Alex had watched the debate tonight. He thought about whether Alex had heard his name on national television for the first time in 19 years, spoken by a man who had never met him, in front of 40 million people. He thought about all of it. He did not press call. He set the phone face down on the marble counter. He turned off the bathroom light. He walked to the bed and lay down on top of the covers in his dress shirt and trousers and shoes. Outside the window, the California State Capitol dome was lit gold against the dark sky. The same dome where Gavin Newsom had been inaugurated twice. The same dome where he had stood on the steps and smiled for cameras and shaken hands and made promises. The same dome where he had dreamed every single day for the last 8 years of trading for a bigger one in Washington. He closed his eyes. The dome glowed outside the window. The smile did not come.